The hospital hallway buzzed with a low hum of fluorescent lights and the distant wail of sirens in the city beyond the walls. The scent of antiseptic mingled with the faint aroma of flowers left on nearby windowsills. Officer Daniel Reyes adjusted his uniform, feeling the familiar weight of the badge against his chest. Beside him, Rex, his K-9 partner, walked in perfect synchrony. The German shepherd's coat gleamed even under the harsh lights, and his movements were taut with focus. 7 years of service together had forged an unspoken bond. Daniel didn't need words to understand Rex, and Rex seemed to read his every thought. Today's assignment seemed routine, a quick security sweep of the pediatric wing of St. Mary's Hospital. Nothing out of the ordinary, nothing that could prepare them for what was about to unfold. Daniel's radio crackled with a nurse reporting a minor disturbance in the corridor, just a child spilling juice over the floor, nothing that required serious intervention. Daniel exhaled slowly. "Routine," he muttered under his breath, his tone almost a comfort to himself. Routine, he reminded himself, was often the calm before the storm. They passed the nurse's station, the fluorescent lights casting sharp shadows on the linoleum floor. Children's laughter echoed faintly down the hall, cut off by the occasional cry or beep of a monitor. It was the kind of sound that should soothe, not warn. But then Rex paused. Daniel noticed it immediately. 1 second the dog's gait was perfect, fluid, the next his paws froze. His body stiffened like a drawn bowstring. His ears twitched, rotating as if catching some imperceptible noise. His eyes locked on one particular door, room 312. Daniel's brow furrowed. "Rex?" he asked softly, tugging lightly on the leash. Rex did not move, not an inch. "Strange," Daniel muttered. He knelt beside the dog, peering into those sharp, intelligent eyes. A million signals passed between them in silence. In all their years together, Rex had stopped before, hesitated, but never like this. Never with such intensity, such insistence. Daniel tried to recall any recent incidents involving room 312. A sick child, a parent in distress, nothing unusual in the logs. And yet the hairs on the back of his neck rose. A deep, uneasy feeling clawed at him. Rex let out a low growl, almost imperceptible, but it carried an edge that made Daniel freeze. His hand instinctively rested on the dog's back. "All right, boy, calm down. Let's see what's going on," he murmured. But Rex's eyes didn't leave the door. His breathing changed, short, rapid, tense. Daniel glanced around. The hall was busy with hospital staff shuffling past, unaware of the silent warning before them. No one noticed the small drama unfolding, a dog refusing to follow orders, a trained officer caught between protocol and instinct. Daniel swallowed hard, knowing he had a choice: obey the rules, ignore the instinct, or trust the dog he had raised and trained for this exact moment. He tried again, softly commanding, "Rex, heel." But the German shepherd planted his paws deeper, his body rigid as stone. His tail stopped wagging, rigid like a signal flag. Daniel's heart thumped violently. A nurse noticed the hesitation and frowned. "Officer, the dogs aren't allowed in the rooms." Her voice carried a polite firmness, but her eyes betrayed curiosity. "We can't have him barging into a patient's room." Daniel straightened, feeling a surge of frustration. "He's not barging in," he said, voice calm but firm. "He's stopping for a reason. There's something wrong in there." The nurse shook her head, stepping back toward the station. "It's just a stable patient. Everything looks fine on the monitors." She didn't understand. They rarely did. Rex whined, a soft, piercing sound that made Daniel's stomach twist. He could feel the urgency radiating off the dog. It wasn't a random action. It wasn't misbehavior. This was instinct honed through years of life-or-death training, a silent alarm, a warning. Daniel knelt, brushing a hand over Rex's neck. "All right, buddy, let's find out what's going on." He reached for the door handle. Rex's gaze followed every motion. The dog didn't move closer, he simply stayed poised, ready, alert. Inside room 312, a little girl lay in a hospital bed, her tiny body covered with a pale hospital blanket. Tubes and wires snaked across the bed, connecting her fragile frame to monitors that ticked steadily. 6-year-old Emily Carter's chest rose and fell with a regular rhythm, or so it seemed. Her mother sat slumped in a chair nearby, exhausted, eyes red and swollen. She barely noticed the hallway now, caught up in whispered prayers. Daniel hesitated just a moment before knocking. Rex stiffened. The little girl stirred slightly, her eyes fluttering open. For a split second the room appeared calm. The monitors hummed a reassuring rhythmic beep. Everything looked fine, but Rex's behavior screamed otherwise. Daniel's hand hovered over the handle. Something about the dog's gaze made his blood run cold. Rex wasn't just stopping. He was warning. Something invisible, something the human eye couldn't detect, was happening inside that room. The mother glanced up, her face lighting with hope at the sight of the uniformed officer and the dog. Is he okay?" she asked softly. Her voice cracked. "She's been through so much." Daniel forced a smile, hiding the knot of dread tightening in his chest. "We'll make sure she is," he said, though even he wasn't sure how. Rex let out another whine, louder this time, insistent, almost urgent. He pressed closer to the door, nose twitching in a rapid, methodical rhythm. Daniel felt a shiver run down his spine. This was no ordinary behavior. He had seen Rex react this way to bombs, drugs, missing people, but never to something invisible, unseen, inside a hospital room. He glanced at the mother again. "Ma'am, I need you to step back for a moment." She hesitated, fear flickering across her features. "It's okay," Daniel assured her. "We're just making sure everything's all right." But as he reached for the door, Rex barked sharply, an alarming, piercing sound that cut through the hum of the hallway. Staff from nearby rooms turned their heads. Nurses frowned. Doctors glanced over. The sound wasn't threatening, it was urgent, life-threatening. Daniel froze. The hair on his arm stood up. Something was wrong. Something was very wrong. And Rex, trained, disciplined, the most loyal partner he had ever known, was telling him to act, to step inside, to trust instincts over machines, over monitors, over appearances. In that instant, Daniel made the choice. He took a deep breath, tightened his grip on the leash, and swung the door open. Rex bolted forward immediately, moving with a purpose that left no doubt. There was danger here. Or worse, there was life hanging by a thread. The little girl stirred more, her eyes flicking open, but she didn't cry. She didn't move. And then Rex barked again, louder, sharper, insistent, and Daniel's stomach dropped. The room felt suddenly smaller, heavier, suffused with a tension that made the fluorescent lights seem too bright, too stark. Daniel's heart raced. Every second felt like an eternity. He knew that whatever was coming next would change everything. And in that split second, Rex froze, eyes locked on Emily, growling softly, warning him again. Daniel's mind raced. What could a dog sense that no human could? And then, from the corner of his vision, the monitor next to Emily's bed blinked erratically. The steady beep warped into an irregular pattern. Daniel's breath caught. The little girl's tiny chest faltered. Rex barked again, a sound that was no longer a warning. It was a call to action. Daniel knew, in that instant, that they were racing against something far more sinister than anyone could see. And that was when it hit him. Rex wasn't just stopping outside the room. He wasn't just alerting him. He was trying to save her life. The hallway outside fell silent, the distant hospital noises fading as Daniel's mind focused on the immediate, terrifying reality. He had only one chance, only one move. And whatever happened next would decide whether Emily Carter would live or die. The hospital room was deceptively calm. Sunlight streamed faintly through the blinds, casting striped shadows across Emily Carter's small bed. Tubes snaked over the blanket, feeding her fragile body nutrients and medication after the emergency surgery that had nearly claimed her life earlier that morning. The monitors blinked steadily, or at least they seemed to. Emily's mother, Corinne Carter, sat slouched in a chair, clutching a threadbare sweater in her hands. Her eyes were red and swollen from crying, her hair mussed from running her hands through it repeatedly. Every time she glanced at her daughter, hope and fear collided violently in her chest. "Stay with me, baby," she whispered, voice trembling. "Stay with me." Daniel Reyes froze just inside the doorway. Rex sat perfectly poised, tail stiff, ears perked, nose twitching in sharp, precise movements. He refused to move closer without command. Daniel's stomach tightened with unease. He had trained Rex for nearly every scenario imaginable: explosives, missing persons, armed suspects. But nothing had prepared him for this. The raw, silent warning that something invisible, insidious, and life-threatening was happening to a child in a hospital room. Rex whined softly, low and deliberate, a sound that drew Corinne's attention. She looked up, startled. Is he going to hurt her?" she asked nervously, eyes darting between Daniel and the dog. "No," Daniel said firmly. "He's warning us. He's telling us something's wrong." Corinne's face paled. "Wrong? She's fine. The monitors, everything says she's fine." Daniel took a deep breath. "Trust me, dogs don't act like this for no reason." Rex shifted slightly, circling Emily with careful precision. Each pawfall was deliberate, every movement calculated. His gaze locked on her chest, then her tiny hands, then back at her face. He barked short, sharp, insistent. The sound jolted the room. Corinne gasped. The nurses outside the room, alerted by the noise, began peeking through the doorway, concern etched on their faces. Dr. Angela Morris, a pediatric intensivist, pushed past the nurses, frowning. "What's going on here? Why is there a police dog in a patient's room?" Daniel straightened. "Doctor, something's wrong with Emily. The monitors may not be picking it up. Rex senses it." Dr. Morris's brow furrowed in skepticism, but the dog's intensity gave her pause. She stepped closer to the bed, scanning Emily's vitals. On the screen, everything seemed stable. Heart rate normal, oxygen saturation fine. And yet, Daniel's gut screamed otherwise. Rex barked again, packing faster, circling Emily with unwavering focus. Daniel followed his gaze to her chest. Subtle, almost imperceptible, a slight hitch in her breathing. A pause, barely noticeable. But it was there. Rex had picked it up instantly. "Daniel," Dr. Morris said, her voice calm but tense. "If there's something wrong, it's not showing here." Rex growled softly, low in his throat. The sound was warning, urging, demanding. Daniel swallowed hard. He reached for the monitor, running a hand over the leads, checking connections. Everything appeared perfect, but instinct told him it was. Suddenly, Emily's small fingers twitched. Her eyelids fluttered as if caught in a fragile battle between sleep and consciousness. Corinne leaned closer. "Emily," she whispered. The little girl's eyes opened briefly, wide and unseeing, her lips parting in a soft gasp that was almost imperceptible. Rex froze, ears high, tail stiff, nose quivering. Daniel's heart slammed against his ribs. "She's reacting," he murmured. "Something happening right now." Dr. Morris frowned and leaned closer, scanning the monitors again. "Vitals are fine. There's nothing." Her voice trailed off as the screen flickered unexpectedly. The heart monitor skipped a beat, then returned. Daniel caught it barely. But Rex had seen it too. The dog barked sharply, insistent, packing faster now, circling Emily's bed like a sentinel guarding her life. Corinne grabbed Daniel's arm. "What's happening? Why is he acting like this?" Her voice cracked. Fear and panic mingled with exhaustion. Daniel shook his head. "I don't know exactly, but he's telling us something is very, very wrong. We need to be ready. We can't wait for the monitors to tell us." Suddenly, Rex stopped abruptly, front paws braced, eyes locked on Emily. His ears tilted slightly backward, a warning gesture Daniel had seen only in the most extreme situations. Then Rex barked again, long, piercing, demanding immediate attention. Corinne gasped, gripping the blanket. "Oh God, Daniel, what is it?" Daniel's blood ran cold. He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he crouched beside Rex, feeling the dog's tense muscles ripple under his hand. Everything about Rex screamed urgency. danger beyond what any monitor could detect. Daniel's mind raced. The faint hum of the hospital suddenly felt oppressive. The fluorescent lights flickered once, casting eerie shadows across Emily's tiny form. Daniel glanced back at the door. Staff were gathering, unsure, murmuring, exchanging nervous glances. He could feel the tension rising, thickening the air. Everyone was waiting for a signal, for someone to act. Then Emily's chest stuttered, a tiny, almost invisible pause between breaths. Daniel's stomach dropped. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, but he and Rex had recognized it immediately. She's stopping," Daniel said quietly, his voice tight. "We need help now." The room erupted into action. Nurses scrambled to Emily's side. Dr. Morris grabbed the call button, summoning a crash team from the pediatric ICU. Equipment clattered as monitors began alarming. Corinne's screams filled the room, echoing off sterile walls. "Stay with me, baby. Stay with me." Rex barked again, frantic now, circling Emily, nudging her gently with his nose as if to demand attention, as if he alone knew the precise moment critical life hung in the balance. Daniel held onto Rex's collar, feeling the dog's determination vibrate through him. Seconds stretched into eternities. The monitors beeped irregularly now, flashing red warnings. Emily's small chest barely moved. Dr. Morris began manual compressions, calling for immediate intubation. Nurses worked to stabilize the lines. Corinne's hands shook uncontrollably, clutching the blanket, crying out words she could barely form. Rex refused to leave. He stayed close, growling low, eyes never leaving Emily's face. Daniel could see it, the pure instinct, the unwavering focus of a partner who had faced criminals, gunfire, and chaos, but had never encountered anything like this. And then, just as the crash team burst into the room, Daniel realized something chilling. The monitors had failed to detect the beginning of a life-threatening complication. Emily's vitals were crashing, and no one had seen it coming, except Rex. The tension in the room was suffocating. Every second now counted. Every movement, every breath, every decision could mean life or death. Daniel felt a lump rise in his throat, his hands gripping Rex's harness tightly. Rex barked once more, a sharp, commanding call that cut through the chaos like a clarion alarm. Daniel's eyes met Dr. Morris, and he saw it reflected in hers. Disbelief, awe, and an urgent acknowledgement that this dog's instincts might just save a little girl's life. The entire room seemed to hold its breath. Emily's tiny body trembled. The line between life and death hung by a thread, and Rex refused to leave her side. In that moment, Daniel knew, whatever happened next would decide everything. The ordinary world of routine hospital care had vanished. Now, instinct, loyalty, and courage would have to take over. And as the crash team prepared to act, Daniel realized one terrifying truth. The dog outside the door wasn't just reacting. He was the only reason Emily had a chance to survive. The suspense in the room thickened. Time seemed to slow, each heartbeat a drum of inevitability. Hook for Part 3. Emily's life is hanging by a thread, the monitors are failing, and Rex's instincts are about to force the staff into a race against time they may not be ready for. The room erupted into controlled chaos. Nurses swarmed Emily's bed, wheeling monitors, adjusting IV lines, and shouting instructions over the rising alarms. Dr. Morris's voice cut through the cacophony. "Clear the airway. Get the intubation kit. We're losing her." Corinne Carter clung to the edge of the bed, sobbing uncontrollably, her tears smearing across the hospital gown she had draped over herself in haste. Every second felt like an eternity. Through it all, Rex did not panic. He moved with precision, circling Emily's tiny form with relentless focus. His ears were tilted forward, nose quivering, tail stiff but controlled. This was not confusion. This was trained, honed instinct, a silent command to act, to protect, to signal danger before it fully manifested. Daniel stayed close, his hands gripping Rex's harness, feeling the tension radiate from the dog. He had never seen Rex react this way, not to armed suspects, not to volatile situations downtown, not even to bomb threats. This was different. This was raw urgency, a primal alert that transcended training. Suddenly, Rex barked sharply, his voice slicing through the chaos. The sound was distinct, not aggression, not play, but a signal, a command to act. Daniel looked down at him, heart racing. "What is it, boy? Show me." The dog lunged slightly, nudging Emily's shoulder with his wet nose. Then he barked again. Dr. Morris noticed it and turned, eyes narrowing. "What is the dog doing?" she demanded. Daniel pointed to Emily's chest. "Watch her breathing. Look at the subtle pauses. It's happening faster than the monitors show." The team glanced down. To the untrained eye, Emily's chest rose and fell steadily. But Daniel and Rex had already noticed the imperceptible hitching in her rhythm, the pauses that heralded impending collapse. Seconds now had the weight of minutes. Rex barked a third time, more insistent, and backed toward the foot of the bed, then returned to circle Emily. His movements were deliberate, almost ritualistic. He was signaling something. Daniel realized it was the same pattern he had seen in high-stakes K-9 training exercises. Identify the threat, isolate it, guide humans to act. The crash team, now fully assembled, responded to the alarms, eyes wide as they processed the chaos. Daniel grabbed one of the nurses by the shoulder. "Listen to me. I know it sounds impossible, but watch the dog. He's trying to tell us where the danger is." Dr. Morris took a step back, skepticism and urgency battling across her face. A dog, a trained animal, in the middle of a pediatric ICU crisis. "Yes," Daniel snapped. "He's seeing what the monitors aren't catching." Rex barked again, low and urgent, circling Emily's head this time. His nose hovered near her neck, sniffing the air with surgical precision. Then suddenly he froze, eyes locked on a specific spot under the blanket where a small IV line ran into Emily's arm. His growl was low, warning, like the voice of a drill sergeant. Daniel's stomach turned. The IV line looked fine, but Rex had identified something critical, something subtle, invisible. His instincts were honed to detect danger far beyond human perception. "Check the line," Daniel ordered the nearest nurse, his voice tight. The nurse hesitated but obeyed, pulling back the blanket and inspecting the catheter. And there it was, a kink in the tubing. The flow of critical medication had slowed to a near halt, an almost invisible obstruction that could, in seconds, push Emily's fragile system past the point of recovery. Karen screamed, her voice tearing the room apart. "Oh my God, my baby!" Dr. Morris acted immediately, clearing the line and restarting the medication. Emily's small chest fluttered as the correct dosage began to flow. But it wasn't enough. Her body had already begun to shut down, and the subtle chemical imbalance caused by the interrupted medication was triggering an internal crisis. Rex barked again, frantic now, circling Emily with renewed urgency. Daniel held the leash tight, feeling the dog's raw anxiety transmit through the harness. He realized that Rex was doing more than alerting. He was guiding, insisting, demanding that every second count. Dr. Morris grabbed the defibrillator. "Clear," she shouted. The first shock jolted through Emily's small body. Her chest arched unnaturally, but the monitors still showed weak readings. Daniel's heart raced. He looked at Rex. The dog's ears twitched, eyes never leaving Emily. This was more than instinct, it was foresight. "Again," Dr. Morris yelled. Another shock, still minimal response. Emily's tiny body was teetering on the edge. Karen sobbed, clutching Daniel's arm. "Please, don't let her die." Rex barked louder, more urgently than ever, then stepped closer to Emily, nudging her cheek gently with his nose. Daniel realized that the dog wasn't just alerting the team. He was comforting Emily, keeping her presence strong enough to stimulate even the faintest spark of life. The room seemed to pulse with tension. Every beep of the monitors, every shuffle of the crash team, every shallow breath Emily took amplified the pressure. Seconds stretched impossibly long. Daniel's mind raced. Had he ever trusted anyone or anything like this before? Then faintly, Emily's fingers twitched. A tiny, almost imperceptible movement, but it was there. Rex barked sharply, circling again, then sat, placing his paw gently on the bed. It was a gesture of reassurance, of command, of protection. Dr. Morris leaned over the little girl, her face pale but focused. "Come on, Emily, fight, just a little longer." And then, as the team administered oxygen and continued resuscitation, a miracle happened. Emily's chest rose more steadily. Her fingers twitched again, stronger this time. Her eyelids fluttered open. The monitors beeped a hesitant but steady rhythm. Corinne screamed, clutching her daughter with relief and terror intertwined. "She's alive! She's alive!" Rex barked once sharply and then, finally, relaxed. He lowered his head, tail wagging softly, as if acknowledging the danger had passed. Daniel exhaled, letting the tension drain from his body. His partner had done the impossible. But as the room quieted slightly, Daniel noticed something chilling. Emily's recovery wasn't complete. She was stable, yes, but only barely. Her heart was fragile, her body still weak from surgery, and the chemical imbalance from the interrupted IV had left lingering effects. Every second moving forward would be critical. Daniel looked down at Rex, who now sat calmly by Emily's side, eyes closed for just a moment before reopening to scan the room. The dog had saved a life, but he had also sensed that the danger wasn't fully over. Corinne buried her face in her daughter's hair, whispering promises and prayers. Daniel's hands shook slightly, gripping Rex's harness. He realized something terrifying. The monitors, the human eyes, and even the advanced medical technology could not have detected the life-threatening crisis in time. Only a dog's instinct, trained, honed, and unwavering, had saved Emily Carter. And in the back of Daniel's mind, a lingering dread remained. What if Rex had been wrong? What if the subtle warning signals had gone unnoticed? Emily's fragile life had hung by a thread so fine that a moment's delay would have ended it. Rex barked one last time, soft but firm, as if confirming the crisis had passed. Daniel met his gaze, eyes wide with awe and disbelief. "You did it, boy," he whispered. "You saved her." But as the adrenaline faded, Daniel felt an unease creeping in. The room was quiet now, monitors stable, the crash team packing up, and yet something inside him told him that this was not the end. Because when a dog can sense danger, humans cannot. Even life-threatening internal crises, invisible to the naked eye. There's no guarantee the world outside the hospital door is ready for what comes next. And just as Daniel reached for his radio to update security, Rex stiffened again, ears high, tail rigid. His gaze darted toward the hallway. Something or someone was approaching. The door to room 312 slowly creaked open. Footsteps echoed down the hallway. The shadow that appeared in the doorway stopped everyone in their tracks. And Daniel knew immediately that whatever was coming next could change everything, and that Emily's life, though temporarily saved, might still hang by a thread. Hook for Part 4, someone or something is approaching the hospital room. Rex senses a new threat. Emily's life, already fragile, is once again at risk. The footsteps in the hallway were deliberate, slow, but somehow heavy, as if every step carried intent. Daniel's gut twisted. He glanced down at Rex. The dog had gone completely rigid, hackles raised, muscles coiled like a spring. His ears were tilted sharply forward, eyes locked on the approaching figure, tail stiff, and low growl vibrating from deep in his throat. This wasn't casual hospital traffic. This was something dangerous. Corinne Carter, still holding her daughter, stiffened. Who is that?" she whispered, fear clinging to her words. Her voice trembled, barely audible over the beeping monitors and the hum of fluorescent lights. Daniel's hand tightened on Rex's harness. "I don't know, but whatever it is, it's bad. Stay back." The figure stopped just outside room 312. Shadows from the hallway stretched long across the linoleum floor. Daniel couldn't see the person clearly yet, but instinct told him this wasn't a visitor. No casual smile, no worried expression, just a presence, rigid, deliberate, and tense. Rex barked sharply, a warning so piercing it caused the nurse who had just returned from the station to jump back. She clutched her clipboard, eyes wide. "Officer Reyes, the dog." "I know," Daniel snapped. He didn't need explanation. He had seen this before, trained instincts don't lie. He stepped in front of the bed, shielding Emily. The figure moved slightly, and Daniel caught the glint of something metallic in the hand. A knife, a scalpel. His pulse quickened. The alarms weren't from the monitors, they were from Daniel's mind, his instincts screaming at him to act. "Step away from the bed," Daniel said, voice calm but firm. "Now." The figure froze, and for a split second Daniel thought they might retreat. Then, without warning, the figure lunged. Rex sprang forward in an instant, teeth bared, growling ferociously. The dog's body slammed against the intruder, pinning them just outside the bed. Daniel felt the familiar surge of adrenaline, the bond between man and K9 pulsing in sync. "Rex, stay," he shouted, voice strained but commanding. The intruder struggled, attempting to push past Rex. A nurse screamed. Karen screamed louder, holding Emily tighter. Daniel moved swiftly, pushing the intruder back toward the hallway while Rex held their position, teeth gripping clothing but never drawing blood, his control perfect, precise. Dr. Morris shouted over the chaos. "What's happening? Who is this?" Daniel barely had time to respond. "I don't know, but the dog detected a threat. Keep Emily safe." Rex barked again, louder, more urgent. The intruder's movements became frantic, as if realizing the dog would not yield. Daniel glanced down at Emily. Her eyes were wide, frightened, her tiny hands clutching the blanket. She was too young to understand, but the fear in the room was contagious. Then a chilling sound cut through the chaos, a click faint but unmistakable. Daniel's heart skipped. A gun? No, too small, metallic, deliberate. It was close, too close. His mind raced. Rex lunged again, intercepting the hand holding the metallic object. The intruder's balance faltered. Daniel seized the moment, tackling the figure against the wall. Metal clattered to the floor, a small surgical instrument. Not a gun, but close enough to harm a child. The crash team and nurses swarmed in, restraining the intruder, while Rex stood guard over Emily, tail low but alert, eyes darting to every corner of the room. Karen's hands shook violently as she whispered, "Oh my God, my baby." Daniel exhaled slowly, trying to steady his own trembling hands. He looked down at Rex, pride and awe swelling in his chest. "You saw it," he murmured, voice tight with emotion. "You knew what was happening before anyone else did." Dr. Morris finally approached Emily's bed. Her hands flew over the monitors, checking vitals again. "Her heart rate, it's stable," she said, relief coloring her voice. But she didn't move Emily just yet. She glanced at Daniel and Rex. "I don't know how to explain this," she said, voice almost whispering. "The monitors didn't detect any anomaly until just now. You're saying the dog?" "Yes," Daniel interrupted softly, almost reverently. "He sensed the danger before the machines did. He saved her." Karen buried her face in Emily's hair, sobbing. "Saved her," she whispered, almost in disbelief. "Saved my baby." Rex circled Emily once, then sat firmly by the bedside. His gaze remained unwavering. He didn't relax fully, not yet. Daniel knew his partner understood there might be more to come. Dogs trained for life-or-death scenarios rarely sense danger incorrectly. A security officer arrived, restraining the intruder, a hospital volunteer with a sudden, inexplicable fit of rage over a personal grievance. Daniel's mind struggled to comprehend it. "A volunteer," he muttered under his breath. "And they almost," he swallowed. The thought of what could have happened made his stomach twist. Karen hugged Emily tightly. "I don't even want to think about what could have happened." Rex let out a soft whine, nudging Emily gently with his nose. It wasn't aggression, it was reassurance. A silent promise that she was safe now, at least for the moment. Daniel looked around the room. Nurses were shaking, some wiping tears from their eyes. The crash team packed up equipment. The tension in the air remained thick, a reminder of how close they had come to catastrophe. Dr. Morris finally exhaled, looking at Daniel. "I'll have to explain this to the board. A dog detecting a medical emergency before it shows on monitors. They'll think it's impossible." Daniel shook his head, exhausted but resolute. "Not impossible, real. This dog, he doesn't just follow orders. He reacts to life. He saved her life today." Karen looked up, tears in her eyes. Will she be okay now? Daniel hesitated. Emily was stable but still fragile. The internal complications from surgery and the near-fatal pause in medication had left her body weak. "She's alive," he said carefully. "That's the first miracle. Now we have to make sure she stays that way." Rex sat watching Emily with unwavering focus. Daniel knelt beside him, resting a hand on the dog's back. "Good job, boy. You did it. You saved her." But even as relief washed over the room, a shadow of unease lingered. Rex's instincts had been correct, but his alertness hadn't fully dissipated. Daniel knew that when a dog senses danger, it often arrives before humans even realize it exists. And as Karen hugged Emily tightly, whispering promises and prayers, Daniel glanced at the doorway. The intruder was now restrained, but the hospital hallway felt unusually silent, the air heavy with tension. Rex's ears twitched. He rose on his paws, nose pointing toward the hall. Something or someone was out there, watching, waiting. Daniel stiffened. "Not over yet," he muttered under his breath. His eyes met Rex, and the dog's gaze held a warning that needed no words. And in that instant, Daniel realized something terrifying. Emily's life, though momentarily safe, had been placed on the razor's edge by circumstances invisible to human eyes. Only instinct, loyalty, and courage had prevented disaster. The monitors beeped steadily again, but Daniel didn't trust them entirely. He had learned the hard way. When a dog acts on instinct, humans would do well to pay attention. And just as the intruder was being escorted away, Rex froze once more, ears high, tail stiff. His eyes darted toward the hospital corridor. Daniel's heart skipped a beat. Something new was coming, something potentially worse. The air in room 312 seemed to hold its breath. The tiny girl, Emily, still weak and fragile, had survived, but the danger had not completely passed. Daniel's voice dropped to a whisper. "Stay with her, Rex. Whatever happens next, we're ready." And with that, the hospital room fell into tense silence, every heartbeat echoing in the charged air, waiting for the next threat to reveal itself. Suspense hook for Part 5. Emily is temporarily safe, but the new threat Rex senses approaches rapidly. Every second now could reignite the life-or-death struggle, and no one can see it coming. The hospital room had finally quieted, or so it seemed. Emily's fragile chest rose and fell, her tiny fingers twitching as monitors beeped a steady rhythm. But Daniel Reyes knew better. Rex had not relaxed. The dog sat rigid by the bedside, ears pricked, muscles taut like a coiled spring. His gaze darted to the hallway again, low growls vibrating from deep in his chest. Something was coming, something dangerous. Daniel's pulse quickened. The intruder had been restrained and removed, but Rex's instincts screamed that the danger had not fully passed. Daniel tightened his grip on the leash, feeling the tension transmit through the harness like electricity. "Stay calm, boy. Whatever it is, we handle it together," he whispered, though his own hands trembled. Karen Carter clutched Emily's blanket, eyes wide with fear and confusion. What now?" she whispered, her voice trembling. "Why isn't it over?" Daniel shook his head, unable to offer reassurance. He could feel the same dread settling in his stomach, the knowledge that Emily's life hung on a thread, and every passing second increased the risk of catastrophe. Suddenly, a faint sound echoed from the hallway outside, metallic, deliberate, and slow. A cart rolled, wheels squeaking in perfect rhythm, but it was too synchronized, too precise. Daniel's stomach twisted. Rex stiffened immediately, growling low, warning. "Something coming," Daniel muttered. Nurses and security officers froze mid-step, eyes wide. The cart moved closer, and a shadow stretched across the floor. Daniel realized with a jolt that it wasn't a cart at all. It was a figure, moving carefully, purposefully, toward room 312. They wore a lab coat, blending in with the staff, but something about their movement screamed wrong. Rex barked, sharp and commanding. The intruder's previous attempt had been intercepted, but this new figure moved differently, quieter, surer. Daniel's heart hammered. He recognized the urgency in Rex's behavior. This wasn't random aggression. This was a life-or-death warning. "Everyone back," Daniel shouted, pointing to the corners of the room. The nurses and security officers hesitated, stunned, but instinct took over. They moved Emily to a slightly safer part of the bed, shielded by Daniel's presence. The figure paused at the doorway, glancing inside. Daniel's pulse raced. "Stop right there," he commanded, voice firm. The figure froze, hand reaching toward the bed. Rex lunged forward, teeth bared, growling like thunder. The sheer force of the dog made the intruder recoil slightly. Daniel lunged beside him, pushing the figure back with all his strength. The room erupted into chaos. Karen screamed, holding Emily tightly. Nurses shouted instructions, trying to restore order. Dr. Morris barked commands, her face pale but resolute. "Get this person out of here. Call security again." Rex barked furiously, circling the figure, nudging them back toward the hall. His instincts guided him, every movement precise and calculated. Daniel moved alongside him, a perfect partnership honed over 7 years. This was more than training. It was instinct, loyalty, and timing at its most precise. Suddenly, the intruder dropped a small vial. Daniel's heart stopped. It clinked against the floor. The label was obscured, but the liquid inside caught the fluorescent light. A chemical, medication, poison. The possibility made his stomach churn. Rex snapped at the vial, nudging it with his nose away from Emily. Daniel grabbed it just in time, tossing it toward the trash. The tension was suffocating. The seconds stretched, each heartbeat magnified in Daniel's mind. Dr. Morris checked Emily's monitors. "Vitals are dropping again," she shouted. "Her heart rate, it's falling." Daniel's pulse slammed against his ribs. "She's still in danger," he yelled. "We can't wait." Rex barked again, circling Emily as the crash team prepared for emergency intervention. The dog's alertness guided them, indicating where to act first, which lines needed attention, which areas required immediate focus. Daniel realized that Rex was more than a guardian. He was a living, breathing guide, directing the team to act faster than any monitor could. Karen's hands shook violently. "She's too small, too weak, please." Her voice cracked, words lost in sobs. Daniel squeezed her shoulder. "We're doing everything we can," he said, though even he felt the weight of uncertainty. "Rex is making sure she gets a chance." Minutes passed like hours. Emily's small body trembled, fingers twitching, eyelids fluttering. The monitors beeped sporadically, alarmingly. Daniel moved closer, gripping Rex's harness. The dog's energy was infectious, focused, urgent, unwavering. Then a faint gasp escaped Emily's lips. The room froze for a split second. She had taken a breath, her first full, unassisted breath in what felt like an eternity. The crash team reacted instantly, stabilizing her oxygen and adjusting her medications. Rex barked a single sharp sound, almost triumphant. Daniel's heart surged. She was alive again, but still perilously close to death. Dr. Morris's face was a mixture of disbelief and awe. I don't know how to explain this," she murmured. "The monitors didn't catch this deterioration, only the dog." Yes, Daniel said quietly, only Rex. He knelt beside the German shepherd, feeling the trembling energy ripple through him. You saved her life, boy. You kept her alive when no one else could see the danger. Karen whispered over Emily, tears streaming. Thank you, thank you. She didn't know whom to thank first, Daniel, the doctors, or the dog whose presence had saved her child. But Daniel's mind couldn't rest. The danger was not fully over. Rex's ears twitched, his gaze darting back to the hallway. His body was still tense. There was more to come, he could feel it. And then it happened. A loud crash echoed from the far end of the pediatric wing. Doors slammed. Alarms blared. The faint sound of hurried footsteps rushed closer. Daniel froze. Rex's growl deepened, warning of something approaching too fast to be harmless. Karen clutched Emily tightly. Not again, please no, she cried, her voice breaking. Daniel's heart pounded in his chest. He knew instinctively that whatever was coming could strike in an instant. Every second counted. Emily's life, already teetering on the edge, hung in the balance once more. Rex barked and lunged toward the doorway, eyes locked on the approaching threat. Daniel followed, pushing past nurses and staff, ready to intercept. The hospital corridor had become a battlefield, invisible to anyone not trained to see the signs. And as the shadow moved closer, Daniel realized the horrifying truth. Emily's life was still not secure, and the next few moments would decide everything. Hook for Part 6. Emily's recovery is fragile. A new threat approaches rapidly, and Rex's instincts will be the only thing between life and death. The team must act fast, or lose her. The air in room 312 had grown thick with tension. Emily Carter lay weak on her hospital bed, her tiny chest rising and falling in shallow, fragile movements. Monitors beeped steadily now, but Daniel Reyes didn't trust the machines. Instinct had already proven far more accurate. Rex remained at Emily's side, alert, muscles taut, eyes darting toward every corner of the room. The dog's low growl reverberated through the air, a warning that the crisis was far from over. Dr. Angela Morris leaned over Emily's monitors, her brows knit in deep concentration. I don't understand, she murmured. Vitals look stable, but she's still unresponsive at times. There must be an underlying complication. Daniel's mind raced. Rex sensed it from the beginning, he said quietly, almost reverently. The monitors missed it, but he didn't. Karen Carter clutched Emily's hand, shaking violently. What is it? What's wrong with my baby? Before Daniel could respond, Rex shifted closer to Emily, nose hovering near her neck. A sudden whine escaped the dog's throat, low, insistent, almost human in its urgency. Daniel leaned in, following his partner's gaze. Her IV line, Daniel realized aloud. Something's off again. Dr. Morris moved quickly to check the line. It's clear, she said, frowning. No blockages. But Daniel's eyes caught something subtle. Emily's skin had a faint bluish tinge near her fingertips, the kind of oxygen depletion that occurs when the heart struggles to circulate blood properly. Her body was compensating silently, masking the danger from the machines. Rex barked sharply, circling Emily once, then stopping and pawing gently at the bed. His gaze locked on her chest, his stance tense and unwavering. Daniel felt a cold shiver run down his spine. Internal complication, he muttered. Something the monitors can't detect yet. Dr. Morris froze. You mean she's at risk of a sudden collapse? Daniel nodded grimly. Exactly. We need to be ready to act fast. Seconds later, the monitors emitted an alarming beep. Emily's heart rate spiked, then dropped dangerously low. The line on the screen wavered like a tiny heartbeat in free fall. Daniel grabbed the dog's harness. This is it, Rex. We have to stay sharp. Rex barked again, low and urgent. The dog's body quivered with focused energy. Daniel realized that Rex wasn't just sensing the complication. He was anticipating it, warning the team before the machines could register the crisis. Karen's sobs grew louder. "Please don't let her die," she cried. "Please." The crash team moved in instantly, preparing for emergency intervention. Dr. Morris called for a defibrillator and manual oxygen. Daniel stayed close, holding Rex, whose body was coiled like a spring, ready to act at any moment. Emily's chest rose unevenly. A faint gasp escaped her lips. Her tiny fingers twitched. The room held its collective breath. Every heartbeat was magnified, every movement, every sigh carrying the weight of life and death. Then a sudden, horrifying realization hit Daniel. The internal complication was caused by a small blood clot that had formed in Emily's heart, a rare post-surgical complication invisible to the monitors. The clot had nearly stopped her heart earlier, and the slightest delay could trigger another collapse. Rex barked sharply, sensing the impending danger. Daniel felt the urgency reverberate through the harness. "She's going down again," he muttered. "Brace yourselves." Emily's chest jerked violently, her eyelids fluttering. The monitors beeped erratically, warning alarms echoing off the sterile walls. Dr. Morris shouted instructions, directing the team with precision honed by years of experience. "Start compressions. Get her heart stabilized." Karen screamed, clutching the blanket. "No, don't let her go." Her voice cracked, raw and unfiltered, carrying the pure terror of a mother facing the unthinkable. Rex lunged toward Emily, nudging her cheek gently with his nose. It was a small gesture, but Daniel recognized its significance. The dog was offering comfort and focus, anchoring Emily to the world in the only way he could. Seconds stretched like hours. Emily's tiny body trembled. Her chest heaved under the relentless pressure of life-or-death intervention. The team worked furiously, each movement guided by experience, but it was Rex's instincts that were driving the timing, alerting Daniel and Dr. Morris to every subtle change. A defibrillator shock jolted through Emily's body. Her chest arched unnaturally. The monitors beeped in erratic bursts. Daniel's heart pounded against his ribs. Rex barked, circling, nudging, alerting again. The dog was communicating faster than the human eye could process, faster than any machine. Emily's small fingers twitched once more. Her eyes fluttered open, weak but alive. A faint gasp escaped her lips. The monitors began to stabilize, but her recovery was fragile. Karen sobbed uncontrollably, clutching her child. "You're alive, you're alive." Rex sat, tail low but wagging slightly, eyes never leaving Emily's face. He had done it. He had sensed the life-threatening clot before anyone else, before the machines, before human intuition could react. Daniel knelt beside him, feeling the dog's tense energy finally relax slightly. "Good job, boy," he whispered, voice thick with emotion. "You saved her again." Dr. Morris wiped tears from her eyes. "I've never seen anything like this," she murmured. The monitors missed it entirely. Only the dog detected the complication in time. Karen clutched Emily to her chest. "How can we ever thank you?" she whispered to Daniel, then to Rex, tears streaming freely. "You saved her life, both of you." Daniel nodded, though he didn't feel relief just yet. Emily's condition, while stable for the moment, remained delicate. One misstep, one small complication, and the crisis could return in an instant. Rex rose, alert again, nose twitching. Daniel's pulse quickened. "Not over," he muttered. The dog's instincts were correct. Danger still lingered in the room, unseen, unpredictable, and unforgiving. A soft beep from the monitors drew Daniel's attention. He scanned the readings carefully. Emily's oxygen saturation wavered slightly. The clot may have partially dissolved, but the risk of another blockage or cardiac event remained. Rex let out a soft whine, packing closer to Emily, nudging her gently with his nose. Daniel understood immediately. The dog was urging the team to remain vigilant, to act with precision, and to recognize that survival was fragile. Karen looked at Daniel, her eyes red-rimmed and wide with fear. "Will she really be okay?" she asked, her voice trembling. Daniel hesitated. "She's alive," he said slowly, "and that's a miracle in itself, but she's still fragile. We have to watch her every second and we have to trust Rex. He won't lie to us." The room fell into tense silence. Every breath seemed magnified. Every heartbeat echoed like a drum. Emily stirred slightly, weak but responsive. Rex settled beside her once more, unwavering, his presence a constant shield. And then from the far end of the hallway, faint footsteps echoed once again. Daniel stiffened. Rex perked up instantly, ears high, tail stiff. Another presence approached, unknown, deliberate, and potentially dangerous. Karen clutched Emily closer, terror evident on her face. Daniel felt a chill crawl up his spine. The little girl had survived one life-threatening complication, narrowly escaping death, but the danger was not yet over. Rex growled low, a warning that reverberated through the room. Daniel realized that instinct, loyalty, and courage would need to guide them through what was coming next. Emily's life, already hanging by a thread, depended on it. Suspense hook for Part 7. Emily is stable, but the faint footsteps signal a new imminent threat. Rex senses it, and Daniel knows that the life-or-death struggle isn't finished yet. The faint footsteps echoed through the hospital corridor, slow but deliberate. Daniel Ray's pulse thundered in his chest. Every instinct screamed danger. He glanced down at Rex. The dog's body was taut, every muscle coiled, ears forward, tail stiff. His low growl rumbled like a distant storm. The German Shepherd had never been wrong, not once, and right now, he was signaling a threat so imminent it made Daniel's stomach tighten with fear. Karen Carter clutched Emily tightly, her small hands gripping the blanket as if holding onto life itself. "Please, no," she whispered, voice trembling, eyes wide with terror. Daniel stepped in front of Emily's bed, his eyes scanning the hallway. The shadow at the far end of the hall moved again, faster this time, deliberate, purposeful. Whoever or whatever it was had a plan. Daniel's mind raced, analyzing every possibility. A thief, a desperate relative, or someone with a grudge against the hospital or Emily herself. Rex barked sharply, a sound that cut through the tense silence like a whip. He leapt slightly forward, nudging Daniel, insisting on action. Daniel's grip on the harness tightened. "I know, boy, I know." The figure appeared at the edge of the hallway now. A tall silhouette, shrouded in a pale lab coat. Daniel's heart raced. The intruder from earlier had been restrained, but this was someone new, or perhaps a second accomplice. The shadow moved closer. A glint of something metallic caught Daniel's eye. Another instrument, another weapon. He couldn't tell, but the presence screamed intent. Every step closer increased the danger exponentially. Rex barked again, more insistently, circling Emily's bed. The dog's eyes never left the approaching figure. Daniel realized that Rex was creating a perimeter, positioning himself to intercept, to protect Emily, to guide the humans. Dr. Morris glanced at Daniel, eyes wide with disbelief. "A dog caw," she began, but stopped mid-sentence, watching Rex's precise movements. "He knows something we can't see." Daniel nodded grimly. "He's right, we have to trust him." The figure was halfway down the hall now, each step deliberate, slow, and unrelenting. Daniel's muscles tensed. Rex lunged slightly, teeth bared, growl deepening. The dog was warning them. This threat was real, imminent, and potentially lethal. Karen's sobs grew louder, her face pressed against Emily's chest. "Please, don't let her." The figure lunged suddenly, breaking the suspenseful crawl of seconds into chaos. Rex reacted instantly, intercepting with precision, body slamming into the intruder, teeth snapping inches from the hand holding the metallic object. Daniel lunged beside Rex, pushing the figure back, using every ounce of strength to shield Emily. The intruder struggled violently, but Rex's grip and positioning were impeccable. The dog's weight pinned them against the wall. Nurses screamed, scrambling to move Emily further back from the danger. Karen held her child tighter, tears streaming, whispering desperate prayers under her breath. Dr. Morris shouted, "Get him restrained. Now." Security officers rushed in, restraining the intruder while Rex remained alert, keeping the figure from advancing. But Daniel noticed something chilling. The intruder's movements were calculated, surgical even. Whoever this was, they had intended harm and had done their homework. Emily had been their target. Rex barked sharply, nudging the intruder with his nose, growling low. Daniel realized the dog was assessing the threat, keeping the intruder at a safe distance, protecting Emily while simultaneously guiding the human team on how to respond. The intruder's weapon, a small, sharp surgical scalpel, clattered to the floor. Daniel's heart pounded. The danger was neutralized for the moment, but Rex's instincts screamed that the risk was not over. Emily whimpered softly, a small sound of fear and weakness. Daniel knelt beside her, gently brushing a strand of hair from her face. "It's okay, Emily," he whispered. "You're safe for now." Corinne's hands shook violently. I can't believe this," she muttered, voice trembling. How did this happen?" Dr. Morris shook her head. "We'll need a full security review. This shouldn't have been possible, but the monitors failed us. Only the dog noticed. Only he knew." Daniel exhaled slowly, relief washing over him, but tempered by unease. Emily's fragile body was still recovering from the internal complication earlier. Every heartbeat still mattered. Every second was precious. Rex lowered his body slightly, but his eyes never left Emily's face. His instincts had guided them through a near-death medical crisis and protected them from a real-world threat. Daniel felt the enormity of what had just occurred. Corinne whispered softly, holding Emily's hand. Thank you," she said, tears streaking down her face. She looked at Rex, eyes wide. "You saved her life, twice, 3 times." Daniel nodded, kneeling beside her. "This dog, he's more than a partner. He's a guardian, he's her hero." Rex let out a soft whine, nudging Emily gently with his nose, reassuring her with silent presence. The little girl stirred, weak but responsive, eyes fluttering open for the first time since the chaos had begun. Dr. Morris checked the monitors. "Vitals stabilizing," she said softly. "She's alive. She's going to be okay." Daniel exhaled, finally letting his shoulders relax slightly. But deep down, he knew this wasn't the end. Rex remained alert, ears twitching toward the hallway. Danger had a way of finding the vulnerable, and Emily's condition, though temporarily safe, remained delicate. Corinne whispered prayers under her breath, holding Emily tightly. "You're going to be okay, my love. You're safe now." Daniel glanced down at Rex, heart swelling. "Good job, boy. You didn't just save her. You protected her when no one else could." But the tension remained. Daniel's eyes flicked toward the hallway again. The faint sound of movement echoed, a reminder that the hospital, though secure, was not impervious. Rex's body tensed slightly. His instincts, honed over years of life-or-death scenarios, told him that vigilance must remain. Daniel understood instantly. Emily's journey to safety was far from over. The room fell into tense silence. Emily's fragile body rested in her mother's arms. The monitors beeped steadily. But Daniel knew that survival, true survival, would require constant vigilance, instinct, and courage, qualities that Rex had demonstrated beyond measure. For now, Emily was alive. For now, the immediate threat was neutralized. But the shadow of danger, the fragility of life, and the unpredictable twists of fate remained in the air, palpable, unforgiving, and relentless. Hook for Part 8, Final Part. Emily is safe for the moment, but her fragile life and the hospital's security hang by a thread. Rex's instincts may be the only thing between survival and tragedy, and the final confrontation is coming. The air in room 312 was thick with tension, every heartbeat amplified by fear, relief, and anticipation. Emily Carter lay curled in her mother's arms, fragile and pale, her small chest rising and falling in shallow, uneven breaths. The monitors beeped steadily now, but Daniel Reyes didn't trust them entirely. The crisis had shown him that life often teetered on invisible threads, and it was instinct, not machines, that had saved Emily before. Rex sat at the edge of the bed, ears pricked, muscles coiled like a spring. His amber eyes scanned the hallway through the open door, every subtle sound magnified. The dog's low growl resonated like a warning drum, echoing through Daniel's mind. Danger is still here. Karen Carter held Emily tightly, whispering reassurances she barely believed herself. "You're going to be okay, my love, you're safe." Her tears fell freely, her voice trembling as her body shook from exhaustion and fear. Daniel kept one hand on Rex's harness, the other resting lightly on Emily's tiny shoulder. "Stay alert," he murmured to the dog. "We're not done yet." The faint echo of footsteps returned from the far end of the corridor. Slow, measured, and deliberate. Daniel's stomach knotted. Every instinct screamed that this was not another hospital staff member or visitor. This was the final threat, the one Rex had been anticipating from the moment the girl first slipped into crisis. The figure appeared in the hallway doorway, a man, mid-30s, dressed in a hospital lab coat. Daniel recognized him immediately. A contractor who had access to the pediatric wing, someone whose background had slipped through security checks. His eyes were cold, deliberate, and fixed on Emily. Rex barked sharply, leaping forward, teeth bared, muscles rigid. Daniel braced himself. This time, there was no hesitation. Rex intercepted the intruder at the threshold of the room, growling, circling, positioning himself between Emily and danger with unerring precision. "Stop," Daniel shouted, stepping forward. "Step back now." The man hesitated, eyes flicking between Rex and Emily. But then he lunged, hand reaching toward the bed, fingers closing around a small, sharp instrument. Daniel felt his pulse slam. He had no time to react. Rex did. In an instant, Rex slammed his body against the intruder, teeth snapping dangerously close to the man's hand. Daniel lunged forward, tackling the man against the wall. The sound of impact reverberated through the sterile corridor. Karen screamed, pressing Emily closer. "No, don't let him touch her." The intruder struggled, but Rex was relentless. The dog's weight, positioning, and controlled aggression kept the man pinned just enough to prevent him from reaching Emily. Daniel called out to the security team, who rushed forward to restrain the man. Dr. Morris barked orders. "Clear the hallway, move everyone back. EMS, prepare for emergency intervention if needed." The struggle was intense but brief. Within seconds, the intruder was restrained, hands cuffed behind his back. The small instrument clattered to the floor just out of reach. Daniel exhaled sharply, chest heaving. Rex remained vigilant, body coiled, eyes never leaving Emily. Karen clutched her daughter, sobbing uncontrollably. "You saved her. You saved her again," she whispered almost to herself, tears streaking her face. Daniel knelt beside Rex, voice tight with emotion. "You did it, boy. You saved her life again. You never hesitated." Rex let out a soft whine, nuzzling Emily gently with his nose, tail wagging slightly. He had completed his mission, but his alertness never fully relaxed. This was instinct, survival, and love all intertwined. Dr. Morris checked Emily's monitors carefully. "Her vitals are stable now," she said, voice tinged with awe. "The clot resolved, oxygen levels normal, heart rate steady. She's finally out of immediate danger." Daniel nodded, though his mind remained hyper-focused. "It's not just the medicine," he said quietly. "It's Rex. He saved her more times than I can count. He saw danger that no one else could detect." Karen whispered to her daughter, tears falling freely. "You're safe now, my sweet girl, safe." She looked at Daniel and Rex, gratitude overwhelming her features. "I don't even know how to thank you enough." Daniel shook his head, exhausted but resolute. "Just take care of her, that's thanks enough. Rex, he just does what he's trained to do and what he feels he must do." Rex, ever vigilant, circled Emily once more, then settled beside the bed. His head lowered, resting near her tiny shoulder, eyes still scanning the room. Daniel could see the bond forming, unspoken and profound. The dog had protected not just Emily, but the family's trust and hope. The intruder was taken away by hospital security, murmuring protests, struggling but contained. The officers had no idea how close they had come to tragedy, how narrowly Emily's fragile life had been spared. Daniel understood. They would never truly grasp the magnitude of Rex's role. Karen looked down at Emily, whispering softly, "You're going to grow up strong and you'll know how lucky you are." Emily stirred slightly, her eyes fluttering open for a brief moment. She let out a small, fragile laugh, the first sound of hope since the ordeal began. Rex barked softly, almost in encouragement, nudging her hand with his nose. Daniel exhaled slowly, letting the tension drain from his body. Hours of fear, adrenaline, and relentless vigilance had culminated in this moment. Emily was alive. The immediate threats were neutralized. And for once, the room felt like a sanctuary, filled with the quiet triumph of survival. Dr. Morris approached Daniel, her voice low and awed. "I've seen a lot in my career, but nothing like this. That dog, he didn't just save a life. He anticipated death, prevented it multiple times. It's miraculous." Daniel nodded, glancing at Rex. "Miraculous, yes, but earned. Years of training, instincts, and loyalty. He's more than a dog. He's a guardian, a partner, a hero." Karen looked at Daniel, voice trembling. "I will never forget this. You and Rex, you saved my daughter's life. I'll be forever grateful." Emily stirred again, eyes focusing on the dog beside her. She reached a tiny hand toward him, and Rex responded instantly, nudging her gently with his nose, allowing her a moment of connection that was tender, human, and profound. Daniel watched silently, pride swelling in his chest. The bond between child and dog, protector and innocent, had been forged under fire and crisis. It was unbreakable. The hospital room was finally calm. Monitors beeped steady, controlled rhythms. Security had escorted the intruder out. Karen held Emily, whispering soft reassurances. Dr. Morris checked vital signs, satisfied but still shaken by the extraordinary sequence of events. And Daniel knew, deep in his heart, that Rex's instincts had done more than save a life. They had reminded everyone in that room of the fragile, miraculous nature of survival. Rex finally lowered himself beside Emily's bed, resting his head gently on the edge, eyes closing briefly in the first moment of true rest. Daniel patted his back, voice soft. "Good job, boy. The world's a little safer because of you today." Karen smiled faintly through her tears, watching Emily and Rex. "My baby saved by a hero," she whispered. "Not just a man, but a dog who knew what we couldn't see." Daniel stepped back, letting mother and daughter share their fragile peace. He knew the work wasn't over. Emily would need careful monitoring, medical attention, and support. But for now, the terror had ended, and life had been preserved against almost impossible odds. As the sun rose outside the hospital windows, light spilled into room 312, illuminating the tiny figure of Emily Carter resting safely, her breathing steady, her fragile life protected by instincts, loyalty, and courage. Daniel looked down at Rex, who wagged his tail softly, a silent acknowledgement that the battle had been won, but also a reminder that vigilance, courage, and instinct would always be needed to face life's unseen dangers. And in that quiet, cinematic moment, one truth was undeniable. Sometimes, heroes come in forms we least expect, and miracles are guided not just by human hands, but by those with the courage, instincts, and heart to act when every second counts. Final hook. Emily survived, but the bond forged between child and dog, the courage displayed, and the instincts that saved her life left an indelible mark. A story of hope, bravery, and miracles that no machine could replicate.